So thank you everyone for coming, very much for coming. It's great to have you. I came to the opening of Al-Muntanabi Street about a month or 6 weeks ago, and when I realized that Dr. Mazin was going to be in the States and that the exhibit would still be going on, I was very excited and I wrote to Bonnie and I said, you know, I have an Iraqi doctor who's going to be in the States, and could we do a presentation at the exhibit? And of course she agreed, which is why we're all here today. The thing that's so extraordinary for me is my work, which is called the Iraqi Children's Art Exchange, sits at an intersection of medicine and art. And so I have the great pleasure of sitting in an art gallery, surrounded by this art reflecting on Baghdad, and I have a doctor with me. So it's perfect. It couldn't have been programmed this way. Even if I had tried to look for a gallery to bring him to, it wouldn't have been as exciting as it is here. So I'm very excited. Dr. Mazin is Dr. Mazin Al-Jadiry is the full name. He's a pediatric oncologist in Children's Welfare Teaching Hospital in Medical City, Baghdad. He and his colleague, Dr. Salma Al-Haddad, have been there many years, since sanctions, since the 90s, struggling to provide care in a situation, more care for more people with less resources. I went on a humanitarian mission to Baghdad in 2001. I was actually accompanied by somebody here in the audience, Kathleen Winkworth, who is here. And we had 300 drawings with us. We were on our way. We didn't know what we would actually do with these, but kids in the Pioneer Valley made the drawings as a sort of greeting to children in Iraq. And we arrived at the hotel, and the minder sent us to this hospital. And when we got there, we met Dr. Mazin and Dr. Salma, and we said, we have this artwork and we have these art materials, and they said, this is just what we need. So we didn't have medicine, but they could see immediately that this was what they could use, even if they didn't need it. It was an international connection, and it was also art. So this is when our relationship began, 2001. We've been in and out of touch all these years since then. In 2012, Dr. Mazin was in Boston, and we, through some miracle of connection, hooked ourselves up to Dana-Farber Cancer Institute and Harvard Medical School. So the visit here, he's come with a delegation. There is another doctor and there are 2 nurses. They have gone off to a conference in Providence, and I brought Mazin here for the art side of it. We've been spending 3 days in Boston doing the medical side of it, including he gave a presentation at the Department of Global Health and Social Medicine, which is essentially partners in health in the Harvard School of Public Health. So we've had a very, very busy medical time. I haven't, but the doctors and nurses have. And now it's a great pleasure that I can haul him away and immerse him in my world, which is this world here in the Valley. So without too much more going on, I'm just going to turn it over to you. I think Dr. Mazin will probably speak for a half an hour or so. He's already been speaking for about a half an hour to various people, and then we will take questions. So it's a great pleasure. Dr. Mazin, thank you for coming.
Thank you, Claudia, and all the audience, and it's an honor for me to meet you all. We didn't used to make interviews or to meet people, maybe just with the international delegations, because our lives stopped since 1981 or 1980, when we started the practice of wars. So maybe our lives, as I am now 50 years, maybe it stopped when I was 12 years or 15 years, because everything was abnormal. Until now, we don't feel normal. So from where you want me to talk? From which age? From age of 12 when I was, if at 12 years of age, if I come here, many things would be familiar to me. But now many things are not familiar. At that time we were in primary school, we were reluctant to go to the school without having a flower to our teacher. Now I didn't see a flower in Baghdad or in Iraq maybe for the last 5 or 6 or 7 years. We don't have graces, we don't have gardens, we don't have anything. We just want to save our lives. We just want to hear the news. So I don't know from where I can start, but I will start from my career. I entered the medical school, and in 1993 I joined this hospital, Children's Welfare Teaching Hospital, and after 6 months from being first-year resident, one of the Minister of Health investigator, he came, I was in the casualty unit, and he said, why there is no pillows on the patient's beds? Immediately I told him, are we supposed to have a pillows? Because I didn't, for 6 months, I didn't see a pillow in a hospital, because the patients were coming to the hospital just bringing their patients. The families coming to a hospital bringing their patients just to see the doctors. They bring the water, and they bring their food, and they bring their medicine, and pillows, and sheets, and everything. So it was just visiting the hospital to see the doctors. So it was a strange experience for us to work in the hospital, and then we were expecting to have something good in the few years, then nothing was good. And I finished the 4 years specialty, then I saw Salma, she was my symbol, and I entered the hematology branch, and I'm working in the oncology branch since 1998. So it's around, I don't know, 1998, it's around 18 years or 17 years. So we saw the patients, and we saw the families suffering, and we feel their suffering. At least we feel their suffering. We are not giving them much. We are seeing patients as much as Boston's Children's Hospital per year, newly diagnosed patients. But we are only few nurses and few doctors who can just manage the emergency questions for the patients and trying to accommodate the things. This is my job career. And at home with the family, we were having a house, a big house of around 800 square meters. 200 of it was building, and then 600 was just garden with different types of vegetables, different types of trees, and there was time for meditation, time just to work away from anything. But then everything became difficult, and we were obliged to convert this garden to a building just to keep with our family. After I married, we built a twin house so that we can keep within the family, within the big family, because for many reasons, for the security problems, financial problems. So this is what happened in all of Iraq. That's why we didn't see, now we can't see a garden or flowers, and even the paints, the children, our children, they don't have the culture of painting, because what is happening now is only war, is only killing, bombing. So the gifts for each other is just like a guns or like weapon machines. They forgot everything. They forgot the civilized life. So now we are living, apparently, we are living in maybe in a good shape. There is no stress like 2006 or 2005 when we were having a mass killing, 60 to 100. I'm talking about Baghdad, which is the most dangerous city in Iraq. Now it is better, but still we have a distracted morals. We lost the moral support of the people. We are just doing our jobs, going to the hospital, going to our, even if not in the hospital, our institutions, coming again, seeing our children, sending them to the schools, but still there is some kind of spiritual meanings. We lost it. We can't feel what the others feel. It's like, I mentioned in the morning, it's like a chronic illness. When there is an acute illness, you can't feel it. It's hard to tolerate it. There is pain, there is a difficult sensation. But the acute illness might be recovered, disappear. But the chronic illness, it becomes part of your life. You can't feel the pain, but the disease is present. Everyone can see the disease, but you cannot, because it's become a chronic thing. So everyone in Iraq maybe lost his moral part of his body. Everyone in Iraq has a quick temper, has a bad temper in the morning, because when you get in the morning and have difficulties in the air conditioning or in the water, or having hot water in the winter, or having cold weather, cold air conditioning in summer, and spending time to reach the hospital, and maybe insulted during going to the hospital or going to your job. You don't feel good when you start your job, and this is in the morning. But apparently you are going and coming and feeling as you are normal. So it's a struggling life, and in spite of that, the people wants to live. The people start, for me, I was spending many hours during the day, even during the work, listening to the news, hoping for a better future. But now I'm not listening, no more news, just the subtitles within 2-3 minutes only. And sometimes there is bombing near us, less than 1 kilometer, and my friends or my uncle calling from Germany, calling from UK, what happened? We used to tell them, yes, there is a bombing. Why you didn't tell us? Why you didn't write a text message? I told him that it's not every time I send you a text message that we are alive. So it doesn't differ if we are alive or dead, because we have to ignore the bad things. And we are living our lives and having normal relation with each other. But we feel that. But when we come here and go abroad, we see that the life is not just eating, not going just to the hospital and seeing a patient. We need to have a meditation. We need to have peace of mind. Sometimes that we don't hear music, don't hear news, and don't hear the car vehicles coming in and out, just to hear to the music, just to think about what have been done and what is the next. We don't have this time. And maybe we don't want to have this time, because nobody knows what's happening, not in Iraq only, in the Middle East. And nobody knows why the youth are killed every day. And maybe the same number they fled from the country. And maybe the same number have distracted souls, and they behave in a wrong way, in a wrong life. So we don't know why. I have children, they are just starting to graduate from the medical college, and I can't answer their question, what's next? Shall we stay and suffer what you are suffering? Shall we go outside and we don't want to go? Shall we go outside and we might lose our interaction with the country, interaction with the land? I have difficult answers, and I didn't answer them. I asked them to decide. Then they said, what's your advice? Again, I can't give them any advice. So maybe I can stop now, because if I continue to talk, maybe I need 2-3 months just to give you an outline of what is going on. So maybe you can ask more specific questions.
And then if we run out of questions, then we'll give Mazin back the microphone. So if people do have specific questions, why don't you ask, and then we'll see if we can answer them. We'll just, yes, start here.
Curious, among other things, Dr. Mazin, how big is your hospital? How many children do you see in a typical day? Is it the only hospital that treats children who have cancer in Baghdad?
Yes, thank you for the question, because it clarifies many things. We didn't have a new hospital maybe in Iraq, maybe since 1985. So all the hospitals are the old ones, and the capacity is not coping with the patients who were referred to us. We have double the size of the patients. I will start for the hospital. I work in a hospital, a general pediatric hospital, part of the medical city complex, which has a capacity of 2,000 beds with different specialties, surgical, medical, gynecology. So our hospital is a pediatric hospital with 240 beds, and I work in a unit with a capacity of only 50 beds. But we are having daily patients from 60 to 90 patients. So we are doubling the number of patients and seeing around 300 newly diagnosed patients per year. The number may be not large for people working outside the oncology, but if you compare this with the King Hussein Cancer Center, we are seeing maybe 1.5 their number. And just yesterday we talked with the people in Boston, and after a few corrections, our number is just similar to their number, because we see maybe more, because we see patients, the cutoff age is 14 and their cutoff age is 21. And they see around 300 patients per year till 21. We see around 300 till 14 year of age. We are dealing with all types of malignancy except brain tumors, which if we accept them, the number will raise to around 600 patients. So in the outpatient, usually in the standard setting, we should see around 8 patients or 10 patients. But we have 100 to 120 patients in the 3 outpatient setting per week. So we are obliged to have 2 rooms, and in each room we have 2 consultants. And so if you calculate this, we don't have time for the patient more than 3 to 4 minutes at a time that he needs or she needs maybe 30 minutes or 45 minutes to solve the problems. And so in the inpatient also I calculate the time of the round, because we have many commitments, teaching the students and writing the protocol and going searching for drugs. So the morning round is taking about 3.5 minutes for each patient. We don't have much to give because of a huge amount of inpatients and a huge amount of the work after the round. The doctor in our hospital or in our specialty should do everything, should give the instruction to the nurses, should prescribe the drugs, and should manage the limitation facilities of the beds, and should also work as a receptionist, should also move the things when he obliged to move the furniture, because the system is in collapse and nobody knows his job. So being more responsible, you should follow everything. And this is not for all doctors. Many people, many doctors are living their lives, they just do around for 30 minutes and they get out of the hospital just being busy with their private clinics. I'm talking about the people who feel responsible, who feel that those patients, they have nobody, just the doctors in charge and God. So I'm talking on the minority of people who feel this feeling.
So what are your resources to support this? Does the government provide some money or
The government, yes.
Are foundations elsewhere able to help? Or?
The government, the budget for the Ministry of Health is huge, but the corruption is more huge. The corruption is making everything going in the wrong way. You might see a vial that costs $1,000 and not see a tablet, 10 tablets, which cost maybe 20 cents. So this is the problem with the governmental hospitals. So we are obliged to have a fund from a people who knows us, because we didn't accept to have an NGO or to have a bank account by our names or to start creating an NGO, because the level of corruption in Iraq is very huge and we don't want to be in a blacklist, not in front of the government but in front of the people's eyes. So we are receiving money from the doctors who graduate from the university, or the pharmacists who are visiting us, or the patients themselves, the families of the patients, or our relatives. And just yesterday I showed Claudia, my teacher. She's in UK, she left Iraq since maybe 10 years, and she's a dear friend of my mother, and she used to send for feast for some at the end of the year, or sometimes without any reason, a sum of monies to be distributed for the patients. So she sent me $3,000. She said, just put it for the patients. And I called Baghdad we have a feast after 1 week, and before the feast we will put in around $40 for each patient, so we can fit, because we have 60 patients, so it will fit the number. So this is one of the ways that we do our job, because it needs a continuous, sustainable provision of drugs, the things that are not unique for other diseases. For example, a heart problem, you need to do an operation, but it doesn't matter if you do it in July or in August. But for the cancer treatment, the timetable is very important. You cannot delay the treatment because there is no drugs. So we are doing all the legal and illegal ways to having the drugs in our hospital. Buying the drugs from the black market, from the private sectors, because it is not allowed in the official way, and importing drugs by friends from their neighboring countries, from Turkey, from Iran, from India, and buy their bags with the patients, with their relatives. So this is the way how we can manage. Also, we have a big assistance from the Japanese. When 2 or 3 organizations, they met and they said, set a GymNet. It stands for Japan Iraqi Network. So they provide us with a continuous monthly assistance, either by material or by money, so we can just fill the gaps that we need during our routine daily activities.
Okay. Yes, just, yeah.
So, you talked a little bit about the quality of life and about your moral values. Could you describe it in terms of the children, what you've seen?
It's a very difficult question because the answer may be philosophical, because now I'm seeing the children having more freedom, having more time to decide, and exposed, even though we are running in a hard time, many things that are not in front of them. We have it when we were children, but not when we were youth, because of the oppression of the life there. Now, everything is going in the wrong way, but the children have the right to see the things, have the right to expose to international fields. Otherwise, when we were, I just told Claudia that our teachers who were exposed to the international societies, the doctors, the surgeons, the consultants, they didn't allow us to speak in any media, to speak with anyone. Even after 2003, even after that, when we have the ability or the facilities to go together by invitation for international conferences, when we start to talk, they immediately comments after us, there is nothing like that. They didn't accept the idea that someone smaller than them, less experienced than them, have the right to talk. And when we are sitting in a round table with some people who wants to help, and introduce themselves in the beginning, then they ask anyone to talk, immediately the consultant, he said, nobody has the right to talk, only me. This was our culture. Only the big one he has to talk, only the father he has the right to decide. So we grew on this culture. Then this is the family culture, then followed by the regime culture. We shouldn't say anything, we shouldn't even blink our eyes if they accept or not accept. So everything was programmed. Everything was one time in the sanction, we received a delegation and the director came with them, because the director, specifically the directors, has the right to answer the delegation questions. When they insist to see a pediatric oncologist, and he came with me, and he was sitting or standing out behind them, and they asked me some sensitive questions. And I don't know what to, at that time, I didn't know what to answer, but I answered what I believe in that. For the drugs, for the problems, then I looked for him, he said, yes, good, this is what I expected from you to answer, because otherwise it was a big problem. So, although I am giving an example of a consultant, but this is the way of how children were treated, whether at home, whether in the schools or in the secondary school. Now, the things is different. Now the people we lost our fatherhood and motherhood because we are busy with something else. We are busy with just existence. Our lives, is it exist or not? So the father, either he's busy just to collect the hardship of the life, to go from the morning till night to have some food for the children, and the mother also is busy because she has many things to do alone, and the children are left alone without having some sincere people to teach them what is right, what is wrong. They lost the examples in the family, they lost the examples in the streets, but again, from other side, we are checking on the children who are having malignancy. They have more strong personality, they can choose the things they want to choose, they can give their opinions, they are not afraid to take pictures, they are not afraid to talk in front of the mic, which was our concern at that time. And this is what makes us be happy, seeing medical students coming to donate, to bringing gifts to children. At the time, we thought that those medical students, they don't have a feeling, they don't feel the children's suffering. Or not a medical students, college students from other universities use periodically to come to our hospital and give gifts to children and asking us what you want. This wasn't a culture before. We didn't think of others. We didn't think of, because there's no program for that. So I don't know whether I answered your question or not, but I don't know. It's a hard question.
Yes.
Thank you for speaking with us. I'm wondering if you can talk to us a little bit about the current migration crisis in Europe. Iraqis have been very much in the news as members of that refugee population that are getting implicated in these very complicated situations in Europe. I'm wondering if you have personal thoughts about Europe's role or how the EU has been responding. And I'm wondering if you can tell us if there's a general awareness of what's happening in Europe with the refugee crisis in Iraq right now.
Thank you. Again, it's a long story. We grew thinking that the best solution is to get outside Iraq. This was our concern since we finished the school, the medical school, and this was maybe the thinking of every man and woman in the beginning of their lives, because the lifestyle was not standard. So looking to go outside, whatever, they just want to change their lives. But what happened that in the embargo period, when the people went outside the country in an illegal way, and it was very risky situation, but many of them fled outside the country. So when there was a risk of having not just to put in a jail, but to stay in the jail forever because you were attempt to leave the country without permission, and many people, thousands of people left. So you can imagine now, after that, in 2003, and after that, the people has the freedom to go outside. Yes, after 2003, the people start, some of them, to return to Iraq, thinking that the things will be better, the salaries will improve, and financially they will be better. But again, after that, they fled away again, who came from outside, and followed by other peoples who fled away because the risk of feeling insecure. Did all the people who fled for this reason? No. For financial reasons, for just getting rid of the dangerous situation they are living through. Is there awareness? Is there anyone who can judge who is right, who is wrong? Nobody. At the time when I was against having the chance of leaving the country, many people asked me, and many people obliged me to go outside the country. I was resisting this idea. Maybe I am sick of loving the land, because it is definitely sickness, not in any way a logic thinking. But thinking after 2003, I was telling the people, if you don't return now, we might not need you after that. If you are not giving your expertise in medicine and engineering, because they were in UK and in Germany and many good places, after 5 years, we will not need you, because we will have our country in a good shape. But now, if anyone telling me, can I come? Maybe I will tell him, you can think about it. I can't advise you not to come, but you may lose your moral spirit if you come here. You may lose your practice when you come here. You may be busy with just the term of existence. Are you alive or not? Will you go to the hospital or not? Will you come from the hospital or not? So now I can't advise against going outside Iraq, because although I know this is wrong on the long term, but on the short term, maybe the people who are outside Iraq, maybe there might be a time when we need them. We have an expert people, an Iraqi expert people who can help us. Because I can't imagine that if there is a chance that the war will stop in Iraq, the people from outside will capture the system again. The Iraqi peoples themselves who live outside can serve the country. Coming to the last question is what is happening now. It is just like a model or like a moda or what you can. Everyone have money. The youth people, because they don't have jobs to do. They are just sitting from the morning till night without having an income. So live in an insecure city without being employed and without having an income, what is the reason behind staying in Iraq? There is no logical reason. In spite of for example, my cousin, he came just before 10 days. He said, can you just give me something about Turkey because I want to go to Turkey? And he gave me the full details how to reach Europe. I just told him, how can I help you? I didn't advise him against that. Then when I returned to my home, I start to cry because I don't want him to go. I don't want him to go outside the country. But I can't give him advice to stay. For what he will stay. Then my brother came and talked with him and convinced him. If you can imagine somebody, he has already made his decision about leaving the country and just asking for the final steps. What is the time needed to convince him not to go? I thought 2 days, 3 days, 10 days. Within 10 minutes, he decided not to go and he returned to his city. So the people are not confirming their decision. They don't know what to do. A man who decided to go and he was convinced not to go within 10 minutes. And I feel shame that I didn't talk with him because I don't know where is the wrong, where is the right, and what is the wrong, what is the right. So this is what's happening. Everyone is happy to getting outside in spite of hearing what is going outside. Many people failed, many people were killed. I got, this is statistics, around 300,000 fled to Europe and 3,000 of them died. So maybe it's 1%, but it's cost the lives of the people. In summary, we are in a state of a human delusion. Human delusion means not the bodies, the humanity of the people. We are losing the good people going outside, those who are thinking of the future, those who are thinking of building themselves. And we are left also with good people, but not much.
Can I just ask, what do you think she wondered, do you feel there's a responsibility on the outside to take in the refugees?
I don't know. Sometimes we criticize the outside, why they accept such people, why they open the doors. Then we criticize them, why they don't open the doors. We are living in a hell, and the hell is the responsibility of all. responsibility of all the countries around us, whether regional, whether international, because what is happening is not just by chance. People coming and start fighting armies, and their weapons are stronger than the armies. They are fighting in Lebanon, fighting in Syria, and fighting in Iraq in more than one site. This is not coming by chance. And everyone is happy inside and not outside. In the media, they condemn this action, but what is going on, what we feel it, is not that one. From the Gulf country to the neighboring countries to all the countries around us. The people are good. Every time we see people in a country, either in neighboring countries or outside in the Western countries, the people like you feels what is wrong. But then the actions of the government is not like that. So we don't know whether what is happening, when it will stop, we don't know. And what will happen, is there any division of Iraq into states? We don't know. Is there any invasion of the ISIS to all over Iraq? Even that answer we don't know.
Yeah, Cheryl.
What I read in the media, it sounds like the divisions of the fighting between Sunni and Shia has gotten very intense and widespread. But that's the media talking, and I don't know how you experience this in your city life and your work life. Does it feel like there's a lot of division and prejudice and things like that going on?
I will start with an example, with a story, a small story. In June 2014, we received a 9-year-old girl. Her name is Miriam. She's from Mosul, from Sunni area. And we diagnosed her as a germ cell tumor. And we started treatment after 3 or 4 days from starting admission to our hospital. The ISIS started the crisis and invaded Mosul. And they stuck in Baghdad. They stayed around 2.5 months in Baghdad, in the hospital. At a time when we give the chemotherapy, there is a time for rest. Maybe for 1 week they took chemotherapy and 3 weeks having rest. So during the rest, we kept her in the hospital. Her father and mother, they don't have money. So we start giving them money and collect money for them. And we start to involve her in the examinations so that we have a chance to ask the people to give money for the patients who are sharing in the examination. And we took many pictures for her, and she was a very star in the hospital because they stuck and everyone has expressed their empathy for them. And we are living in a place where most of the employees from Shia. So this is not the case. Between the people, between the citizens, there is no such, because we are the same shape, we are the same language, the same accent, having the same history, having the same religion. But the politicians and the media and the international media with the governments create this problem. But we are, till now, we are just marrying from each other. Till now, we are marrying from each other. We are helping each other. We are doing the same thing. Believe me, in our world, we don't let anyone to talk in any religion, in any sector. We don't let anyone to put any poster for any clergyman. Even we receive some charities, and they just give some specifications. And at the time, we need the money, but we returned the money. We said, if you give us the money, don't ask for whom, and we give for all. Not only Sunni and Shi'i. They said for the poor people. We said all the children are poor. We are giving to our children, regardless if the father is rich or poor, if he is a Christian or Muslim, if he's Shi'i or Sunni. So we refuse hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars because of this. We don't discriminate. So this is our policy, and this is the feeling of the people. But on the media and between the politicians, we see that something wrong. Not because they are feeling bad, but because they are paid to do that.
Yes, Bonnie.
Peter, you earlier, Dr. Mazin talked a little bit about how the children's art exchange helps relations and what that does for your
How does art exchange helps?
Maybe after Claudia's activities, without obliging us, we started to put this spirit in children. Every child coming to the hospital with a newly diagnosed malignancy, we give him a book or notebook, and we give him paint colors to encourage him to draw something. And in the unit, we forbidden the having weapons as a gift from the relatives or from neighbors. So, and every time when we want to discharge a patient from the hospital, we said, please try to draw something. One time, one of the patients, it was several years ago, he drew what you call Musbah Aladdin, the Aladdin.
Oh yes, Aladdin, like Aladdin,
yes.
the magic lantern.
And the one who comes.
Or the genie.
The genie. What was the request from the genie? He said, he asked the genie to get me out of the hospital. And it was a big draw. It was a big poster, and we kept him, the drawing, kept it for several years. So the people, even if the children didn't expose much to the state of art, but the art is in their spirits. So Claudia's, when she started to have the exchange, it was a big step for us to see there is an exchange between our children and children in US. So we encourage the children to draw, and it's not that extensive that you might think, but at least in a war zone, when we don't have even the mood to smile, we ask the patients to draw pictures or draw a palm or draw a river. And one time Claudia's succeeded to have a volunteer. She worked for around 6 months in our hospital, and then there were big exhibitions, and they succeeded to have painters, and they came to our hospitals, and the people, the children, the mothers, all, can you believe the mothers are trying to cheat? They draw instead of their children. And when they say, why? It's very good. Are you? Yes. Are you sure that you are draw the picture? He said, no, my mother helped me.
I have this drawing of the Aladdin and the lamp and the genie coming out and so forth. And it's interesting because it's a Disney character. And on my very first visit, and Kathleen can confirm this, we had about 40 or 50 pictures, and some of them were Disney cartoons. We had Cinderella, we had all these, and I said, this isn't Iraqi art, and I was going to throw them away. But of course, back to Mazin's description of how people are raised, kids draw by copying, and they look and they get all these, they see the media, they know about Walt Disney and so forth. So, you know, I kept them, thank goodness. I didn't throw them away. And this is one of the most amazing ones with the dream to get out. But the same child drew a parallel picture of what he calls Iron Man. So, you know, if you know about child development, you know, in the face of disaster, first you're hoping, Signia Warner will know this, first you're hoping that, you know, to save yourself, but if you can't, then you need somebody to stand with you. So here's a child in the hospital who's hoping, but then he drew this incredible muscle man with these points on his head and this big, you know, big kind of instrument, and he called him Iron Man, and you could see that if the dreaming failed, you know, that this Iron Man was going to come and save him from his cancer and so forth. So, you know, and I know we're going on, and I want to quit, but when I first started with the exchange, you know, it was all about the kids. I thought, oh, we have to get the kids art, and we have to do this, and we have to do this, and I was putting all this attention, and then one time Mazin said, you know, we are suffering as much as the children, and like this light bulb went on. And so one of the things we've been trying to do is say, well, what is a psychosocial intervention for the whole team, like for the parents and for the doctors and the nurses? Is there a way to do an art project at the hospital, or not exactly, something, you know, you have to keep thinking everybody there needs the attention, because the people who are being asked to take care of the children are themselves depleted and so forth. So, you know, if anybody here has any interest in trying to develop psychosocial interventions for a whole group of people who is totally under the weight of this, then you should contact us after this discussion, because this is an institution that talks about crossing lines. You know, so the idea that you have a science art project or a medical art project or a children's project about medicine shouldn't be strange, because Hampshire is all about crossing those lines. And a lot of people who I speak to, they don't get it. They go, well, art, medicine, like what's the point, you know? But I know that here, people will get it. So part of our job is to drum up interest, you know, interest in thinking about this, which is what so great that we're sitting in the middle of the art exhibit. Mazin, I want you to just tell them about what's the mistake you found here about Muntanabi Street.
It was in the map. They put it in the other side of the river, but so by Google I can show it to you. It's near us. Mutanabbi is just maybe 1 kilometer from our hospital, which is on the eastern side of Tigris, not on western side of Tigris. So maybe they didn't find the way. Just drop it in there. So similar to the art, we want, sometimes you may think that how you can make the change. We attended the palliative care workshop in 2011. At the time, I am consultant. Salma also 10 years before me. Because we didn't get the right direction. We were thinking that the palliative care is just end-of-life care. But then we discovered that the palliative care starts from the diagnosis, involving the patient, involving their families, involving their children, their siblings, the brothers and sisters. Since then, we started to change our behavior with although it is a slight change, but it is a change. And we taught the nurses how to deal with the patients, because it's not at the end of the life management, it's from the start of the diagnosis, and how to keep the self without trying to be away from the burning out, which is again a term that I heard in 2011, and when I described the problem we have, they said, no, there is no way, you should change yourself, because I was having a big problem. It was a silly problem in front of the people at that time, but when I explained to them what is the problem, is answering the patient's calls. And I told them, the details of that. On 24 hours, the patient is calling us. They said, you should close your phone, otherwise you will be burned out. And it happened. Now, for the last maybe 3 months, I turned it silent. My phone is silent, and I put it here. Either I feel the vibration and an answer, but if it wasn't here, I can't go for it. Then I come after 20 minutes or 30 minutes, seeing maybe 12 or 15 patients called me. I just answer a selective people. I just answer those who I copied their or saved their names, because the numbers are calling me are unidentified. So I can't keep calling the people who I don't know. So this is the way what we learn from just a workshop or a meeting, or maybe some meeting like this or exhibitions. It changed because we were isolated, not only at the time of embargo, but many years before that.
Sure. Is there somebody who didn't ask a question? Lois.
I wondered, have you known or experienced or keep records? Do you think that there's an increase of pediatric oncology over the last, let's say, 10, 15 years? I mean, is there a number that's going up, or is there a number that is what it was 20 years ago?
4, 5 points we should highlight. That there were underestimation of the numbers before, because there were limited staff, limited health people working in districts or in far cities, and the hospitals are the same since 25 years, and the citizens are increasing in number. Now coming to the question on the hospital record, is there an increase in number? Yes. And do we feel that there is increase in number? Yes. But is there any proof for that? No. Because we should have a consensus, and we should have a national registry, and we should have, because we are receiving patients from all over Iraq. It's not receiving patients from Northampton only, and we can compare our registry with the 10 years before that. In addition, that before 10 years or before 20 years, there is no registry. Till now, they regarded our registry is the best, our oncology unit registry is the best in Iraq, because the people are not interested to register the diseases. And maybe this is an underestimation, because many people, they are diagnosed outside the country. And many people, they don't have the money to come to the hospitals. But to be a scientist and give a briefing and confirmation to the facts, we cannot.
Other question? Yeah.
This is a question, I guess, about the relationship between the medical field, the hospital, and any libraries or entities like a library in the community. I'm thinking about in this country, where we do have so many flowers and can grow and eat, and we can make a lot of things happen. Some of the barriers here might be around access to education. If you have financial challenges, you live in a city, a lot of things cost money. The library is free. The library is the space where anybody can enter, and with the ability to read, you can access other worlds and different ideas, and sometimes it can feed your spirit. And I'm just thinking in terms of the kind of depression that exists in Iraq. Is there any vitality in the libraries? And maybe that is something, because you're in the context of the library in Hampshire, we could be thinking about.
She is a librarian.
I will answer in a different way. What is library?
A library with all the books.
Yeah, I mean, what is library in Iraq?
Oh, what is it? Oh, it's a bookstore. It's a
Yes, I know.
bookstore.
I know. So this is the answer. Al-Mutanabbi, which is a well-known street where someday there was a bomb and something like that. So you can imagine what's the intention of the people to go to the library. They don't have time just to do the very basic things. So the library is maybe a luxurious hobby for them. So you can compare. I was in the 6-year primary school and was just having the copybook, turning the pages in a rushy way. My teacher, she said, Mazin is not eligible to go to the general library because there is a noise when he turned the pages. So at that time, it was hurting me because I'm not eligible to go because I just turned the papers. So, and when I was in the primary, in the intermediate school, there was a full system of library and how they taught us how to sit and how to collect the books and how to read. Then our problem started since 80s when we entered the war. At that time, although the shape of the people, the government and the country was good, just in front of the people, but we lost these things. Now the library, the place is present, but very, very little people going to the library. Maybe those who cannot find a job to work, they just go to read. But otherwise, we don't have time. I told Claudia that after 2003, I didn't have the time to read one book for the last 12 years because many commitments. I'm doing more than a doctor's job. So the life is very difficult to think of reading a books. And also, there are many people reading books, but the situation doesn't allow them because in Baghdad, we should do one job per day. For example, go to buy vegetable, you should do it, today is just going to buy vegetable because the time to go and time to come, it's an exhausting job. It's very difficult to explain to you how is the difficulties doing all the things. So being in a library, maybe it is not existent, whether in the medical field or in other fields. I'm sorry for that.
Cheryl, did you have a question again?
I hate to keep this going because it's tiring, I'm sure. But I'm a social worker. I don't know if you have that term in your culture, if you have social workers in your institutions or your schools, but you sound like you do social work along with everything else you do. What a social worker would do here would be maybe have groups of parents to talk about what they're going through with their children, or they might have groups of staff to talk about how they're getting burnt out or something like that. There'll be one example. Or they might go to visit a child's home to find out what's happening there because the child isn't improving or something of that sort. I don't know if you have social workers as such.
Unfortunately, we lost all these positions. And I have a presentation when I explain the MDT. What is the MDT? This is a doctor and nurse and social workers and many health alliance. And the next slide, I put only the doctor and nurse, and all the circles are empty because we don't have by now some people who call social workers. And even the nurse is not doing her job or his job other than just giving drugs and reading temperature. No touch for the patient, no face-to-face with the patients and knowing the problems and following. All the things are on the doctors. So there is decline in the management, because the doctor cannot be everything. So there is definitely decline in the management. So one of the problems is we don't have social workers. We don't have tracking for the drug patient to see them, to feel how they live, to see their problems. It is not an existing job.
So, yeah.
thank you. I'm sure the conversation will continue more informally. So, thank you.